Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? Well, I am leaving Meijer. I just realized I grabbed my camera when I left. And I realized that I don't think that this battery that I have in here is gonna last very long. I can't remember if I changed the battery or not, but I just filmed like 3 videos back to back. So anyway, I'm trying to vlog a little bit earlier tonight. I may meet Valerie at the casino. I haven't decided yet. She texted me. It's 7:26 right now. She texted me and said she was going. But I have a bunch of stuff to do tomorrow, so if I go, I want to go earlier so I don't stay super late. I just went and I bought, I'm gonna show you guys what I bought at the Meijer. Nothing real exciting. Well, actually, I can't show you because one of the things is something that I'm reviewing tomorrow that's gonna be really funny. So hold on a second, put it over there. And this goes with it. But I bought Aleve for my headaches because I've been trying not to take anything for my my migraines to see if, like, then when I have a really bad migraine, if it helps. So I had been taking Motrin, but I was at Tanya's the other day and when we were watching the Academy Awards, and I hadn't taken anything in a couple days, and my head was killing me, and she had generic Aleve, naproxen, and I took it, and it really helped. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna switch back to the Aleve. So I got the Aleve, and then I got, these are like my favorite chips in the entire world, you guys. They're the toasted sour cream and onion toasted chips from Ritz. 40% less fat, as if that means anything. And then I was gonna get the lights, but I got the lights last time. I really like the white cheddar ones, but they don't have those right now. I got these Baby Bell, and Alex likes them too. These are 10 in here. They have like 5. I think these are $5.99. And they have 5, 10, and 18. I almost got the 18 because Alex likes them too. But I was like, well, we don't need that much cheese around the house. So yeah. So that's what I got at Meijer. And Alex he just got home right after I left. And so I'm heading back home to spend some time with him. I'm glad I got this thing though for my review tomorrow. I'm real excited about it. It'll be funny. It'll be a funny review. It has something to do with Valentine's Day. I kind of was looking for something to do with Valentine's Day while I was there, and I was actually gonna go to Ulta and see if they had like a beauty box or something for Valentine's Day, but I didn't get to Ulta today. And that heat just gets like so hot so quick. So I'm glad that I found something. I was going through all the I wanted to do like a Valentine's Day review other than just like, you know, a Starbucks drink or a Dunkin' Donuts drink, of which I feel like I've done all of them. I mean, I'm sure there's 10 more Frappuccinos that I haven't reviewed that are on the totallythebomb.com website. I love that website. She lists everything that's like at Target and everything that you might need that's new. It's really fun. If you've never gone to totallythebomb.com, if you don't watch my reviews, the first question would be, why are you not watching my reviews? There is like something on my shirt. I can't get it off. I've noticed it all day. But you should be watching my reviews. But totallythebomb.com is this website, and it like lists all this like, just like this pop culture kind of fun stuff, and she always puts like the new cereals that comes out and like the ornaments that they might have at Target. It's like always like Target, Aldi, Walmart. It's like all that kind of stuff. She posts several times a day, and I love looking at all this stuff over there. I could literally just review everything that she has on that site. So anyway, yeah, got up today. Feels like this has been kind of a long day. Well, first of all, let me just say, I am so into Mindhunter right now. I am loving it. And I am currently about, I don't know, like 7.5 hours into it. Maybe 7 hours in, I think 7.5 hours into it. I, last night, drove around after I got done vlogging, and I listened to like 2 hours of it. And I'm loving it. It's so good. And it's so many different cases. I mean, he talks about, so if you've seen the show, like, I haven't seen that much of the show, but like the part that I stopped watching it was when John Douglas, who wrote the book, he is interviewing Ed Kemper, and like he starts going and interviewing all these serial killers, right? And trying to figure out like what their motives are and why they did what they did. And so that this is how the whole idea of profiling comes about, right? But in the book, and I don't know if this happens in the TV show, please don't ruin it for me because I'm going to watch it after I get done with the book, but I'm not there yet if that's the case. He interviews so many, he interviews Charles Manson, he interviews, who's the guy, why can't I think of him, the guy that killed the nurses. It starts with an S, from Illinois, I can't think of his name. He interviews David Berkowitz, he interviews, I mean, all of these people. And so, from a true crime point of view, when you've read about a lot of these people, he talks about Ed Gein, who he calls Ed Gein in the book, so I don't know if maybe you pronounce it Ed Gein. I always thought it was Ed Gein. Who basically is who they modeled, like, Psycho after, and some say, like, he was, like, the true Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of guy, and so he's talking about that. He talks about the Green River Killer a little bit. There's so many cases he talks about. I mean, it's kind of like, it just feels like it's flooding at you. Now, Mel had told me that the first, like, part of it is autobiographical, and it's him just kind of talking about his life and whatever. And I had told her, I said, well, if that's the case, on the heels of this Proof of Heaven by that Dr. Eben Alexander, who, it was fine. It was, like, interesting to hear about his life. If it's going to be the same thing, like, I'm just not really into that right now. But I have to say, John Douglas is such a storyteller that, like, hearing about his life is so much more interesting. I mean, there's just one part, and it's funny, because I was, like, driving right by here last night when this part came on the book. Actually, I threw some trash away, and then the gas station I pulled in there, and that was the part that was on. He's talking about how he wasn't a real great student. I love when people talk about, like, how they struggled in school and all this kind of stuff, and yet they became very successful in one field anyway, because it just shows that passion and hard work and determination can get you where you want to get in life, which I love that, right? But he's talking about how when he was, like, I think a freshman in high school, 9th grade, he like had to read a book for his, like, freshman English class and do, like, an oral report on it, and he didn't read a book because he was lazy, and so he makes up this story about these campers around this fire thing, that, like, when he gets this one part where the bear is about to get them, like, he just starts laughing, and he has to tell the teacher that, like, he made the whole thing up, right? And at the beginning of it, though, when he's telling the story, he's like, I can't believe I'm gonna say this, or I can't believe to this day, I can't believe I did it, right? And so I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, is that the Proof of Heaven book, or is that John Douglas? I'm almost positive it's like I'm reading all these books. They're all flowing into one another by now. But I'm almost positive that has to have been the John Edwards book, because I was just listening to it. Like, John Edwards? What's his name? John Douglas. John Edwards is the psychic. Anyway, yeah, it has to be that book, because I was just listening to it last night. It's too much. It's all too much. Yeah, and the doctor from Proof of Heaven, which I keep on wanting to call Burden of Proof, he wasn't that funny. I mean, his stories were okay, but they weren't that funny. John Douglas is funny, and he even talks about that, like, humor on these cases and stuff, that, you know, it's like you kind of have to have a sense of humor going into it, because, like, it's so sad otherwise. I thought that was interesting that he talked about that. The book is just really interesting, and so he goes into this whole background story of basically growing up and him being a bouncer at this bar, and then at this surf club or a beachfront club or whatever, and then him going to college in, I think, Washington State, and or no, Montana, and then the college that he goes to is where, do you guys know who Y.O. Russ is? So Y.O. Russ is this couple that I'm actually friends with them. They're really nice guys. They have a YouTube channel called Y.O. Russ, W-Y-O Russ. And they're like an age gap couple. I think there's 27 years difference between them. They're so nice. They are, like, so just two of the sweetest guys I've ever met. And where they're from, why can't I think of the town now? Montana. I keep on wanting to say Laramie, like the Matthew Shepard story, but that's where they're from is where he lives in the book. He goes out there, and I know from like them showing it and stuff, it's like out in the middle of nowhere. So he tells about, he gets arrested a couple times for like having a fake ID and drinking and driving and all this kind of stuff. And so it's kind of interesting to hear, like, he was kind of on that side of the law, and then he ends up going into, he actually was going to go into like education, and working with like kids that have developmental disabilities. And then he gets recruited, kind of, or somebody like says to him, you should come work for the FBI, and that's how he gets into it. But he was going to go into like certain kinds of psychology, which is really interesting, like developmental psychology. He's just like super smart, and it's interesting because when I first started it, there was like an arrogance about it that I just was like, I don't know, there's something, I mean, I even said it to Mel, I was like, there's an arrogance about him that kind of is off-putting, but I've been using that word off-putting so much lately. But anyway, and she's like, yeah, but he's done all this so he can back it up with like, who he is as a person, which is true. And it doesn't feel arrogant anymore. Like after listening to 2 hours of his personal life story, he goes in and talks about how he meets his wife and all this stuff. And he's just really, really honest about like dating another girl and why he didn't want to be with her. And, he's really honest, that by the point that you get to where he's talking about the FBI and the profiling and all this kind of stuff, it's like, you feel like you're listening to a friend talk. In all honesty, you really do. Like, he's so engaging as a storyteller, and the story is autobiographical, right? That then when he gets in and he's talking about how all these like, serial killers and offenders like warm up to him, it makes sense. Like, you get it, because he's real comfortable to listen to. Like, I just find myself just intrigued by his simple life, in all honesty. I mean, like, it is really an intriguing book. So yeah, you guys should check it out if you haven't. I hope it's not, no, it's not on right. I was like, I hope it's not playing in the background. And but so if you want to read it, it's the February book. We're going to be doing a live stream the first Sunday in March, because the last Sunday in February is 2 weeks from this last Sunday. We were like, okay, that's way too soon. So we're going to do it the first Sunday in March, which I think is like the 2nd or the 1st or something of March. So that'll be fun. I'm excited about that. Yeah, it's really good. I can't believe that I'm speeding through it so much. I found myself today, I was listening to it today, and I was like, I just want to drive around and listen to this book all day long. Like, that's all I want to do. I don't want to do anything else. I just want to listen to this book. I'm so into it. So you should definitely check it out. And we decided that our book for March is going to be Butcher Baker, about this Alaskan killer. And he actually, in the book, he references it several times. Not the book Butcher Baker, but the killer, who I can't think of what the guy's name is. But he also addresses psychics in the book, and psychics helping like the investigations. There's just like a small part of it. That was the part that I just was at. Maybe I'm like at 6.5 hours. I don't know where I'm at in the book, but it doesn't matter. He just addressed like psychics, because he is helping with this one case, and he like completely profiles it, and the police are like, oh, something I wanted to talk about too, about the police and the FBI working together. So he gives this profile to the police, and the police are like, are you a psychic? And he was like, no. And this is where he's like humorous. He's like, no, but it would make my job a lot easier if I was. And they're like, well, how did you know all of that? Because we had a psychic that came in here last week, and they say her name and everything, and she said the exact same things. And he talks about like psychics that are really good with working with police departments typically are very good at profiling as well, and that like there are just people that are naturally good profilers. And he's like, I'm not ruling out psychics. He's like, there's been psychics that have really helped with certain cases. And he's like, he said something like, I'm not running from that. He was like, I think that that's like a last effort for most police and departments and the FBI. So at the very, very beginning of the book, this was so interesting, on the heels of me talking about the FBI and the police not working together, he goes in and he talks about the FBI's role, and he said, he goes, there's this misconception that the FBI is the ones that arrest and charge and all. He goes, we assist with the police, and the police are the ones that do the work. He like gives all credit to the police. It's so interesting. And he's like, you know, they're the ones in the front lines. He says something about like, you know, we're just the ones that assist with helping them find the person and then give them the information so that the prosecutor can like have a case. But we just assist with it. The police are the ones that do the work. And it was really interesting to hear from that point of view, because you can tell that he really respects the police departments that he works with, because he goes and, like, if you've seen the show, it shows it in the show. He goes around and he, like, teaches these classes to the police department, at which point he's, like, 32 years old. So he's really young in teaching these, you know, police task forces about the serial killers. And he's so smart. Like, he even goes in and he's saying that, like, a lot of these people that go and do these classes, like, somebody in the class will, like, they'll be talking about Charles Manson, and there'll be somebody in the class, like in LA, let's say, for like LAPD, that was on the case, and they'll like raise their hand and go, well, that's not exactly like what happened. Like, I worked that case. And like the teacher will say, well, you're wrong. And like so he realizes like that doesn't work, because then you distance yourself from the police department and the FBI, like as an FBI, and they already are looking down on you. So he goes in and, like, let's say if he's going to talk about Charles Manson, he'll say, well, is anybody here from the LAPD? Did anybody see the battery is dying? I knew it was going to do that. Did anybody work this case? And so then, like, he has them like report on what the case was, and all this kind of stuff. He has them report on, like, oh, so I worked on the case, and he has them give all the details, so that when he's talking, he doesn't like step over their boundaries, and that they feel like they're important, because they are. And he's like, you know, they're the ones that solved the case and all that kind of stuff. So it's really interesting the way that he works with the police department, works with the other FBI agents, and all this kind of stuff. There's some really sad personal stuff that happens in there too. He's just real honest about his feelings. There's a situation when he is in his FBI training. I think it's when he's in his FBI training, and his friend gets killed in a car accident with his car, because he uses his friend's car to get to the airport to fly home for I think Christmas it is. And it, like, really, he has a hard time with it. And it's really interesting how he talks about that, and his aggression and his anger, and how he deals with it. It's really interesting. So anyway, if you guys, I've devoted 17 minutes to Mindhunter. If you haven't read it, you should check it out. Like I said, it's our February book. It's going to be a really fun live discussion. I know it is, because I'm loving it so far. So I know other people are going to love it too. And plus, it talks about so many different serial killers, and yeah, so... and kind of like them being, you know, on the hunt. It talks about the whole idea of, like, it being about, like, you know, a hunt for them. Yeah, trigger warning, they talk a lot about some very difficult things in there, though, like sexual assault and all that kind of stuff. So trigger warning to that. Go into it knowing that if you're going to listen to it. I mean, he talks about it openly. He talks about the BTK killer. He talks about so many cases that we've already discussed in the True Crime Book Club. So it's interesting and it's fun, because I feel like I kind of know what he's talking about, you know? All right, you guys, listen, I am going to get off here next. My battery is probably going to die any second. And then I will be back later to vlog for a little bit longer. All right, bye. Love ya. Okay, I'm back. It's getting chilly outside. Chilly Willy. And it is supposed to snow and sleet tomorrow, which is so exciting. I'd be fine with the snow, but I don't want the sleet. I came home. Ooh, what did I just do? Oh gosh. Cap just, go down. The cap just like ripped into this. Do you ever do that? And mess up your lip balm, your chapstick? Oh, I just did it again. Oh my God, I did it again. Look at that. What am I doing? I'm like a mess at this tonight. I went in and hung out, and Alex and I talked for a while. And then he was like going through some clothes. He got some clothes from ASOS. So he was going through those. And then I watched The Pharmacist, the 4th episode, which is not as good as I would say the other episodes are. But it's kind of tying everything together and talking about Purdue Pharma. That is the one that manufactured OxyContin and all of that. Or manufactures OxyContin. I think they still do to this day. But anyway, a lot of that stuff I already knew from reading the book Dope Sick by Beth Macy. Speaking of books, okay, so I was reading through my comments. I got lots of nice comments. Thank you guys. And I can't remember who put it on there, but they said, it's somebody that comments regularly, so I apologize that I don't remember exactly. Oh, it's open. Who commented on it, but they said that as much as they love me, that so much of my vlog is dedicated to talking about books over here. And then in all honesty, if they wanted to talk about books, they would watch my BookTube channel, which I feel like is a really fair criticism. You know, I just get so excited about certain books that I'm reading, and honestly what happens is, often I'll be listening to my audiobook like right before I start vlogging. So it's kind of like the last thing that's on my mind, if that makes sense. That being said, Valerie, my friend Valerie even said that to me. She said, I said, do you still watch my vlogs? And she's like, yeah, every day. She was like, sometimes I'm not really interested in the books that you're talking about because I don't read those books or I don't know those books or whatever. She was like, but yeah, I still watch it. So I think it's a really fair criticism, and going forward, on the heels of me talking 18 minutes about Mindhunter, going forward, I will try to keep it at a minimum. Or if there's something that, like, if I find myself going on and on and on in a vlog, what I'll do is I'll say, you know, like, hey, I'm gonna do a BookTube vlog about this tomorrow, and if you guys want to hear more about it, you can come over there and hear about it, because I think that's probably a better way to do it anyway. So I apologize that I have been rambling about, but I love books, you know, and so I just get talking about it and I get excited. And then, you know, the weird thing is, like, when I'm sitting at home and I'm like, I should do a book vlog, and I'm like, what would I say? But then I talk 20 minutes in my vlog about it. But I will make a conscious effort to not do that going forward. So anyway, so yeah, so let's see, what else? I can't think of what else. Did I already talk about what I did today? I don't think I did. Got up. What did I do today? Got up and, well, I'm going over to get a fountain pop with Tanya right now. And we decided to not go to our meeting tonight because we were both of us, well, she was running behind and she kind of said something early, so I just like waited till later in the day to make my video. So we did not go to our home group tonight. And what was I gonna say? I got up today. I can't even think about what I did now. I got up, I went and got coffee. Oh, I kind of just like messed around the house for a little bit. So you want to know what I spent time doing today? So I'm a list keeper, y'all know, okay? Like, I kind of wish I hadn't worn this hat, in all honesty. I'm a list keeper, so I wish I had worn a different hat. It's whatever. So like, I keep lists of, you know, things I want to do tomorrow and things this, and a trip list for when we're out of town. And I spent all this time today like working on these lists, like updating my lists of things that I'll probably never get done. It's so silly. But anyway, I did that, and then I went and I got coffee today, and these people walking down the side of the road, that's very dangerous. Like, she was like in the middle of the road almost. So I went and got coffee, and then I came back and I filmed some videos, and I was trying to get all of my stuff done really early because I wanted like everything put up, all of my videos uploaded and everything, dogs fed, everything when Alex came home. I was gonna like kind of surprise him because usually when he comes home I'm still like working on stuff and whatever. But he had to go to his mom's house today to like take her to get her car or something. And so he had to leave for like an hour at work. So he texted me and he was like, because he like called me when he was at like his mom's house, and she had like made him dinner, and like she had made him like an rapist. And he said, I have to go back and finish some stuff up. And he was like, so I'll be home later. And I said, I thought you got off this such and such time or whatever. And he was like, well, I didn't know that it was going to take so long to take my mom to get her car. He was like laughing, and she was laughing in the background. So I gotten all this stuff done, and he came home like a half an hour later than he usually does. So, but we just hung out tonight in our jammers and talked and hung out in the bed with the dogs. And he was trying on different outfits and shirts. And I just kind of sat there and talked to him while he was doing that. And then Tana Jean texted me and asked me if I wanted to get a fountain pop. She asked me earlier, actually, so I didn't know when she wanted to, so I texted her back, and I was like, when? And she was like, in a half an hour. I was like, okay, I'm on my way. I'll be on my way in a second. So I was sitting there still watching The Pharmacist, and I was like, I'm like halfway through the last episode, I think. I'm kind of bored with the last episode. I'm ready to start watching something else. That's what always happens. Like, I get towards the end of the book, end of a book. I get towards the end of, like, a TV show, and then I'm just kind of, like, ready for it to be over if I'm not into it anymore, and I just want to start the next thing. My patience level is very short. I'm sure you know that. Which is why, as a kid, I was always trying, you know, starting, like, 15, 20 things at the same time. It drove my parents crazy. Like on the kitchen table, I'd have like, you know, huge art craft projects. And then like in the bedroom, I'd have, you know, sheets hanging off my bunk beds. That would be like a stage for my puppet show that I was going to do that evening, you know. And then I would be like setting up the Christmas tree, you know, November 1st, because I wanted to have this entire like Santa's workshop in my bedroom. And I was always doing stuff constantly. You know, in the corner were my library books, and I was a busy kid. I think about that, you know, being like an only child, and an only child that really didn't have a lot of friends, you know, other than like family friends that we would do stuff with. And it's interesting looking back on that. Like, I entertained myself really, really well. I think it's part of why I don't have a hard time, like, I don't do poorly, but I don't have a problem today, like, spending time by myself. Like, I can entertain myself really well for, you know, for an entire day or two, you know? And then I start to kind of need people, and I need to be around people, and but, like, I'm not extrovert where I need to like go out, you know, and be in the middle of people. Like, I just need to, you know, get Tanya and get a fountain pop, or go out to dinner with Alex, or us just like sit there and watch, you know, something on TV or whatever. Like, I start noticing at some point that, when did he go? Okay, there was like some time that he like went out of town. I don't know, but usually like when he goes to music festivals in Chicago or something like that over the summer, and he'll be gone like 2-3 days. Like the first day, I really enjoy it, you know? And I'm like, oh my God, this is so nice to just have, you know, time to myself. And not that, you know, like whatever, but you know what I mean? And then like the next day, I'm like sleep in, and it's, you know, nice. And then kind of by that evening, I'm kind of like, yeah, I miss him being here. Like, I'm ready for him to be back. So, are you guys like that when your partners go away? I don't know why this hat is driving me. I've been wearing this hat all day long and I had no issue with it. And now that I have it on, I'm kind of like, I wish I'd worn another hat. What's that about? This one says Beast on it. Beast! If you haven't seen it. I haven't heard from Valerie. Valerie said that she was going to text me when she leaves, but I said, when are you going to go? And she said, I'll text you when I leave. But I don't know if that, like, to Valerie, that could be, she sometimes goes really early. It's 9:18 right now. That could be 10 o'clock, that could be 12, I don't know. Or she could fall asleep and completely forget that she was going to go, which is fine with me. I just will listen to my audiobook. If we go tonight, she said she's going to Shelbyville instead of Anderson. So, that'll be fun to do something different. This coffee is completely gone. It's all ice at this point. I haven't bought any Starbucks cups for a while. And I'm using almost all of my Starbucks cups between like drinking water around the house, like fill them, having, you know, have a glass or have one of water in here. I took my other one in. This is the only one I have in my car right now. And between like coffee and all that kind of stuff, I've been like using most of my cups. Not my like Halloween ones. Like I have a Hocus Pocus one, not Starbucks, but it's the one that I got at that Spirit Halloween. And then I have like a Michael Myers one, and I think I have like a Jason from, what's that called? Why can't I remember? Jason from, camp. I've like literally lately, when I've been trying to remember stuff, I could not remember the word swatch today when I was talking about Jaclyn Hill's makeup. I didn't stop because it's on the other side of the median, just so you know. What is Friday the 13th? Friday the 13th. Jason Voorhees. It's 32 degrees right now. It's so weird that we really haven't had any like bad weather this year where it's like snowed and stayed. I mean, before Christmas, like that week before, we got snow and it was cold enough that it stayed on the ground. But I mean, we're like coming up on the middle of February, and we really haven't, I mean, in March, if we haven't had it in February, we're not gonna get it in March. Probably not, unless we had some weird snowstorm that came in. But the fact that we haven't had any like inclement weather where, I just wanted to use that word, inclement. But it's weird to me that we haven't, you know, had some like weird snowstorm or something. I mean, usually we do, that lasts like a day or two. And what's so strange to me is like with any of like the bad weather, it's like north of Indianapolis gets it, south of, who is that? Texting me some long text. North of Indianapolis gets it, south of Indianapolis gets it, but Indianapolis like never gets snow anymore. It's the weirdest thing. And when I was growing up as a kid, we used to get quite a bit of snow. We don't ever get that kind of snow anymore. It's so weird to me. New sushi restaurant, Sushi and Kitchen. Never seen that before. Where Tony and I get our pedicures done. So, it's crazy to me that we don't, like, get that kind of snow. Whenever I say it in a vlog, you know, people are always like, well, you shouldn't wish for snow, and it's really bad, and, you know, I understand that, like, when I talk about a snowstorm, but, like, when I talk about, like, fantasy level, I mean, I understand that it causes a lot of destruction, and it's unsafe, and whatever, but I'm talking about just, like, the dreaminess of, you know, everybody, the positive side of that, of everybody being at home, making a fire in the fireplace, you know, having hot chocolate, going sledding. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, like, the dangers and the woes of, you know, dealing with a blizzard or a snowstorm. I understand that. But I'm not, you know. There's something, I don't know, about, like, if I'm living in Indiana, I mean, basically right now, it's dry outside and 32. It's just cold, you know? It's just freezing and cold outside. And then tomorrow, it's going to snow and slush, and it's just going to make it inconvenient to drive anywhere, is what it's going to do. So it's not even really enjoyable because it'll be snow and slush mixed and rain, you know? And it's just, it's not pretty. But whatever. I kind of miss the dreaminess. It's funny because, like, I've seen so many people post on Facebook, like, the first snow of the year, and I'm like, nobody's getting snow anywhere anymore. And you talk about, you know, like, global warming and climate change and things like that, but I think it really is true. It's just winters are not the same as they used to be. So, well, all right, you guys, listen, I'm going to go grab Tanya Jean Applestein, prettiest girl I've ever seen. I'll fight you on it. And then I will be back a little bit later. I'm not going to probably vlog for a really long time tonight, but I'll be back a little bit later to finish up my vlog. So I will see you guys then. Love ya. I was going to hold out until right it's at 16 minutes. Are you ready? Bye. Okay, I'm back. Are you excited? Well, We went to, I was gonna say the Fountain Pop store. We went to the Fountain Pop store and we got Fountain Pops at the Fountain Pop store. I got I got like 3/4 of caffeine-free Diet Coke, and then I got the other 1/4, just regular Diet Coke. Did you ever do that when you were a kid and drive your parents crazy? I did, and I snapped my gum real loud too. My dad, oh God, he hated that. I chewed gum like nobody's business when I was a kid. I was always chewing gum and snapping it. My dad would be like, if you snap that gum one more time. I thought I was so cool with the feathered hair, snapping my gum, my hubba bubba. You know, cause like when I was in school, in like elementary school, right? Like, I couldn't really be, like, you know, in 6th grade too, I guess. I couldn't really be who I wanted to be. But like, because we started junior high in 6th grade. But by the time that but when I was out of school, like my parents were so cool about whoever, they didn't care, you know? So I would feather my hair back and then I would hairspray it. But I had like the perfect, I should get pictures of it. I had like the perfect feathers. And I have pictures in my basement. They're so funny. And I swear to God, I have a picture one year. How did they ever know I was gonna be gay? And I had a Kelly green sweater on and a pink polo shirt with the collar popped, and my feathers were perfect, and that was my school picture for the year. Oh, school pictures were a very serious thing in my house. They were very, very serious to me, more to me than anybody else, okay? I took school pictures very seriously. Had to have the perfect outfit for school pictures. Had to buy the biggest package to give them out to everybody, like nobody cared, right? But I always had to. You know what's so funny is that my mom saved every single one of those, like, you know, those paper and like, you know, see-through packages that you buy the pictures with, and you get like, you know, 300 of the little ones, and then, you know, two 10x12s and 5 8x5s or whatever they are, you know, 7x5s. I'd have the biggest package always to give out to everybody. And I can remember arguing with my mom, and she'd be like, we're not going to use all these pictures. And I would be like, Mom, I have to have them. I have to have all those pictures. I think in my fantasy, I was like, I'm looking over here because a friend of mine kind of lives over, my friend of mine, a sober friend of mine lives over there. He's always got like all these people over at his house. He's got like, they're always doing recovery stuff. But anyway, I was like, I think in my fantasy, I was like very popular or something in my head. And I was like, Mom, I have to have the biggest one. I have to have it. She'd say, okay. And I would get the biggest one. And then I wouldn't like give them out to anybody. I'd give them out to like 3 friends because I didn't have any friends. And she'd always put like an 8x10 in a frame, and it'd be like sitting there like me with like the collar popped. I don't think that was the only year I had my collar popped. This one year, this is actually a really funny story. This one year, before school pictures, like the day before, I had been playing with friends in the woods, and I was like in this tree, and we were like going under trees, and we were trying to make a fort and all this kind of stuff. And I got my hair caught in this tree, right? And like there were like burrs, you know, like those what do they call those little sticker things, you know, burrs. I got burrs cut in my hair. Like I have a picture of this too. I had like right here on like the crown of my head, they got stuck in it and they couldn't come out. And I remember I was like with my dad that night, and my dad was like so frustrated, and I was like, he was like, I can't, they wouldn't come out. These burrs wouldn't come out of my hair. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Like if you go through the woods, you get them on your pants and stuff like that. But anyway, so I couldn't get them out, and my dad was like well, we're gonna have to cut him out. I was like, you cannot cut him out. I have a school picture day tomorrow. And he was like, Peter, there's nothing else that we can do. And so literally that school picture, I'm like, I'm like real proud. And I have these like hairs that are sticking up straight out of the crown of my, and I'm like, oh well, get over it. I had to have the big package of pictures that year too. Oh my God. And then for senior pictures, my mother, by that point I was over the school picture thing. I was over school pictures by about 8th or 9th grade. I didn't care anymore. 6th grade, I think, was the last year probably. And you know, everything changed for me between 6th and 7th grade. Like, I mean, I say I didn't have any friends, but I had a few girlfriends and stuff like that. But like 6th grade, I had 2 girlfriends that I was really, really close with. And then in 7th grade, they kind of went and did their own thing. One got real involved in athletics, and the other one kind of just had her own, you know, girl groups and stuff. And I had nobody. I mean, I literally had nobody for like all of 7th grade and all of 8th grade. I got involved in this acting group downtown called Young Actors, and I was involved in that. But like I only had one friend through that. And the thing that was the problem with that was like Indianapolis actually has some really great activities for people. Like they have like the children's choir, I think, in Indianapolis, and they have some really like great programs for like younger people. But the problem is that like if you're involved in it, you like might have a friend that like lives 40 minutes from you or 20. I mean, it's like they live all over the city, right? So it's not like they're all just from one area. And very much like how private schools are too, you know? And I had one friend that was from my school that we were both in the thing. And he and I were friends for a little while, and then not. And I don't remember, we just kind of went our separate ways. I think it was when the acting thing was over. And, but he was always really nice. I mean, he was like in class, he was real quiet, real quiet. And he and I were friends. I mean, not friends, but he was like really nice to me all through like junior high and high school, but we just really weren't friends after that. And I had one friend, but he ended up like getting real involved in like band and music and all that kind of stuff. So then he and I weren't friends anymore. So like all of 7th and 8th grade, I literally had nobody. I mean, I was completely alone. And I mean completely alone. And I kind of retreated into myself, and I remember those were also really hard years as far as bullying, because what happened was, you know, I had gone to this one elementary school, you know, from kindergarten through 5th grade. Well, then all of a sudden I'm at a junior high, and the junior high is 3, 4, 5 different elementary schools all in the same school. So now I've got 4 other schools that didn't know about me before, when everybody's been making fun of me for 5 years, right? So it's not like it just like died out. It's like it started all over again with a new set of people. And I remember that being really hard, because I was like, oh my God, it's a whole new group of people. And 6th grade wasn't bad, because like we were all new, and I think we were all kind of innocent. Like I look back at 6th grade being like one of my best years ever. And we were all kind of innocent, and we were like in a different part of the junior high, and we did everything together, and it just, it wasn't like, I don't know, it like, you know, 7th grade stuff started happening. People started using like drugs and, you know, having sex and doing all kinds of stuff, and I wasn't friends with anybody. So I was outside of all of that. And, which, you know, whatever, thankfully maybe, I don't know. But, so, everybody kind of like formed off at the end of 6th grade, you know, and became friends with different groups, and I didn't have that. And, it was a lonely time. It was a really lonely time, 7th and 8th grade. I really, to be honest with you, I don't really remember a whole lot of it. I remember gym being absolutely horrible. I just kind of remember like going through the motions and not having anybody to talk to. I really don't remember a whole lot from that time. It's really weird, you know, when I think about it. Like, I don't remember being at home during that time. I don't remember. It was just a really dark time for me. I will say, like, I came into my own a lot. I later had somebody say to me, like, in 9th, 10th grade, that they thought I was, like, very, like, mysterious, and, you know, that was really when I was, like, listening to a lot of my mom's music. So I was listening to, like, Simon and Garfunkel, and Bob Dylan, and Arlo Guthrie, and so I would have, like, somebody is texting me. So I would have, like, you know, that stuff on, like, you know, my, on my, what do you call it? I would have that written on my, like, you know, notebooks and my folders and stuff. And then, you know, I started dressing very different. I wore, like, dark jeans and, you know, Doc Martens and concert t-shirts and stuff. I mean, I kind of, like, came into my own stylistically to some degree. And, like, and really at the encouragement of my mother. You know, she didn't like later, like, she didn't dislike it, but she would say things to me, like, about my hair color and whatever, but that was when I was in high school. But at that time, like, my mother really encouraged me to be different, and I don't know what she was going through at that time, because I think later she was afraid that different would equal me being made fun of. And I think at that time, she was like, different, was the equivalent to coming into your own and discovering who you were. And I will say my mom and I were very close during that time that I was in 7th and 8th grade. That was also the time that I started drinking by myself in my room at my dad's house. And I almost exclusively wanted to be at my dad's house. I didn't want to be at my mom's house a lot, because at my mom's house, like, the room that I had at my mom's house was not, like, I didn't spend a lot of time there. So, like, I would come home and I would, like, be in the kitchen, doing homework in the kitchen, eat in the kitchen, go to the, we had, like, this, you know, it was a porch, but it wasn't really a porch. It was like a room that extended off the end of the house. And I would be in there and I would watch TV, I would watch movies, you know, read a lot. But my room at the house I grew up in first was rather small, and I just didn't want to be in there a lot. It didn't feel like a personal space for me. It wasn't somewhere where I would, like, who is texting me like crazy? It wasn't somewhere where I would, like, you know, close the door and just be in there by myself. Like, you know, today, like, kids have computers in their rooms and all that stuff. Now, that was my room at my dad's house. Like, at my dad's house, I had, like, I don't even think I had a TV in my mom's room for a long time. Like, maybe till I was in high school. Even in high school, I didn't spend time in my room at my mom's house. I said my mom's room. I meant my room at my mom's house. I just didn't spend time in there. I slept and I got ready for school. That was it, you know? And at my dad's house, I had a bedroom. My bedroom was on the 2nd floor, and it had a connected bathroom, and I had, like, a suite up there, and I basically had the whole 2nd floor. And so I could be up there doing what I, you know, wanted to do. My dad's bedroom, my stepmom's bedroom was on the 1st floor. It was on the main floor at the very other end. So I could kind of do whatever I wanted to do. Here's somebody out here skateboarding at 10:48 at night. That's interesting. But I could kind of be out doing whatever. I could be up there doing whatever I wanted to do, and nobody knew anything. And my dad and my stepmom went to bed so early anyway. My dad's always been, like, in bed by between, like, 8 and 9, always. So, like, I could be up there doing whatever I wanted to do, and nobody knew anything different. So when I would be there on the weekends, which at that point I was there a lot, like on the weekends, and in the summer I spent long periods of time there, you know, I could just, like, drink and be up there, and nobody really knew the difference. It's weird, I don't think about that time of my life much. You know, as I'm sitting here talking about it, I'm thinking to myself, I don't really think much about, like, 7th, 8th grade, going in, like, 9th grade too. Like, 9th grade was really hard for me. I guess I played tennis a lot during that period of time, but even then I didn't have friends in tennis. I was by myself, and it was kind of like, I was kind of an anomaly when it came to tennis, because I was so good. I had, I've been training since I was, like, 4 years old. So, I mean, they were looking at me going professionally for tennis, and I was so good, and I was in leagues, but I didn't have friends, and it was extremely competitive. And there was probably 4 or 5 of us in Indianapolis that knew each other because we were all kind of on the same level. Other than that, everybody was kind of like below us. And like in 9th grade, I played varsity tennis for my high school. I didn't have any friends there either, you know, and I don't know, it's just interesting when I look back, you know, on that period of my life. I was very, very lonely, and I don't even know that I recognized how lonely I was at the time, you know what I mean? I don't think I was really that aware. I don't know, it's weird. Like, I think back on that, and it's like I just don't even really remember that, you know? That period of my life. I just don't. It's not a period that I think a lot about. And I think, in all honesty, it was probably one of the darkest periods of my life. I also think that that was a period where I was really understanding, like, my sexuality and being gay. And I think I was really scared of it. I think before that, I was being called these names, but I really didn't, I didn't really know what they meant. And this is kind of interesting. So I was on Facebook the other day, and somebody got recommended to me, and it made me think of this guy. And I would have been in 8th grade at the time, because I remember the class, because I also had typing, and I took typing 1 8th grade, and I took typing 2 my 9th grade year. And I remember this guy, and I had this huge crush on him, and he was a football player. I don't know how I remember this, but he sat in front of me in this English class, and he was so kind to me. He was so nice, and he was like an asshole. Like, he was like really, really mean to people, and he was like huge guy, right? And like huge, like big, like muscular and whatever. I mean, it looked like what a football player would look like in high school, but he was like in 8th grade, right? I think it was like a year behind or something, but he was so nice to me. But I remember I had like a romantic crush on this guy. I mean, he never knew it. But anyway, something the other day I was looking at on Facebook, and for some reason his name just came to me like that. And I was like, because I had a crush on him like into high school too. And I remember, like, I remembered his name, and I was like, oh my God, I wonder what he looks like now. And he was cute in high school. And I looked him up. Time has not been kind to this man, I'm telling you. I felt kind of bad looking at his pictures. I was like, this is kind of sad. What is going on? It just said playback stopped. What does that mean? I don't know what it's saying. But anyway, isn't it interesting, like, crushes that you had a long time ago, and then all of a sudden you like... I honestly didn't have many crushes in high school. Well, my book is actually based off of a crush that I really did have, but not a lot of people knew about that. Like, my one friend, I never said it was a crush. I said I wondered about this guy. That was always the word that I used. But, you know, like 7th or 8th grade, I think, was when I started acknowledging to myself that I liked guys. I never talked about it. I never told one person when I was in high school. Never. In fact, you know, I don't really remember, like, how that transition happened from me graduating and then coming out when I was 18 with my friends. I don't remember. I mean, it would have been like 3 of my friends that I came out to. My one friend, so we would go to Steak and Shake and Denny's a lot in Perkins. And my one friend, she worked at Castleton Mall. And, you know, she was 18 our senior year, and she was meeting a lot of gay guys. And she had started going out to gay bars with these gay guys with a fake ID before we had even graduated from high school. And I remember, because, you know, she was meeting all these gay guys working in the mall and whatever, and that was the thing in the 80s, was the mall. And this was 89, 90, because I graduated in 90. So I remember we started hanging out with them. And I remember that I kept a journal back then. I ended up burning all my journals at one point. It was actually at the tail end. I have like one of them left. It was at like the tail end of me. I might have more than one left, but I don't think so. I don't think I have many left. I might have like pieces here and there of journaling, but like it was at the end of my using, and I burnt them all in the fireplace. I read them, and it was like chicken scratch, and I just was really upset about I just was like reading these things, and like it was just like blatant alcoholism and addiction right in my face, and I was like, I'm done. And I like burned them all. I just didn't want to see any of it, or the majority of them that had anything to do with me at that period of time. But one of them was this journal, I think, and I wrote in there, this is really interesting, because this friend of hers, who then I became friends with, actually, he's the one that I used his information to get my fake ID. He had a friend, or was dating this guy that was HIV positive, and I remember I came home and I wrote in my journal that I had met that night I had met for the very first time somebody that was HIV positive. And hold on a second. She's so funny. That was Mel. But, and I remember it just like hit me so hard, you know, because I think that one of my biggest fears about coming out was the whole threat of HIV. And then I like met this guy that was like open about it and looked completely healthy. I wonder what happened to him. I mean, I haven't seen him in 30 years probably. Looked completely healthy, and, you know, and was real open about it. And I remember it was kind of like real weird to me. Like I thought, like I wasn't ready for that. And then I came out and I started going to bars and people were talking about it left and right, you know? And it didn't seem scary to me anymore. I mean, it seems scary to me. Like we never, back in the day, you know, it's so interesting today, you hear about like safer sex practices and things like that. And what's so interesting to me about that is like back in the day, like without, you know, I know people don't want too much information, but like that was never, like I can't imagine ever having a one-night stand or hooking up with anybody and not using a condom. Like that was just never, that never would have been spoken about. Like that just, at least me and my group of friends and the people that I was like hanging out with, like that was just, I mean, if you were gonna screw around with somebody, you were gonna use a condom, period, end of story. I mean, it was a given. And I think it was because so many people that I knew, like the friend groups had been hit so hard, you know, with all of that. So I don't really remember how that came out. I really don't. Like, I don't remember. I do remember it was deliberate because in the month that I graduated to my 18th birthday, I'd used another friend of their friend's ID. This was before I got a fake ID, but I'd used another friend's ID to get into a couple gay bars. Back then, I don't know how it is today, but back then gay bars did not care, okay? If you were cute, they'd let you in. They didn't really care, okay? So it was real easy to get into gay bars. For girls, too. I mean, it was real easy. But anyway, so we had gone to gay bars a couple times and whatever, and I had seen my hairstylist out. And he had made a comment to me about it. I can't remember. And my stepmom and I went to the same hairstylist. And he had made a comment to me about, like, it wasn't threatening because he was really a nice guy. He still is a really nice guy. But he made like some comment, like, do they know that you're out? Like, or something like that. And I was scared to death that he was going to tell her. And you know, this is interesting. I mean, at the height of my using and being a complete mass of trouble in my head and stuff, that I cognizantly thought through this. Oh, it's going to stop. Hold on. Okay. But I did think through it. And I thought to myself, A, if I'm going to come out, I'm going to come out on my own terms. And B, I want my parents to hear it from me first before they hear it from somebody on the street. Like, that was really important to me. I didn't want them to hear it as a rumor or gossip. I wanted them to hear it from me first. And I remember sitting down with my mom. Actually, I sat down with my dad and my stepmom first. And they had no issue with it. My dad was like, I mean, all of my parents, all of my family, my aunt, my uncle, my cousin, everybody has always just been absolutely, my dad's side of the family as well, has just been always amazing. It's just been a non-issue almost, you know. Just opened every boyfriend with open arms. You know, my dad walked me down the aisle. My aunt and uncle were at my wedding. Caroline, you know, was my best man or best person at my wedding. Alex's family is very similar to that. We're just very blessed when it comes to that. But I remember I sat down with my dad and my stepmom because, so I came out on my 18th birthday, and I remember sitting there, and my dad was like, I think I said I was bisexual first, because I did the same thing with my mom, and my dad said, like, they both questioned me. It's been so long, I just really honestly don't remember. But my dad said something like, are you bisexual or are you gay? And I was like, I'm gay. And he was like, okay. And they were both just like completely fine with it. And my dad was like, I've known or suspected since you were like 3 or 4 years old. But my dad also bases a lot of it off of stereotypes. So, you know, but I said that to him one day and he goes, no, that's not true. He goes, that's not fair. He goes, it's not just about the fact that you like dolls or that you wanted to play dress up or whatever. He goes, you know, so much of it, Peter, he goes, was just there about, like, a dad can tell who their kid has crushes on when they're growing up, you know, and, he'd say you get a crush on like a coach or something. You could just tell, you know, that you get embarrassed around people or whatever. But my mom, I told the same thing. I said I was bisexual, and she said, no, you're not, you're gay. She told me. And she said, I'm scared for you. We talked about it for a little bit, and she said, I'm scared for you. And I said, you don't need to worry about me, I'll be safe. And she was like, what are you talking about? And I thought she was talking about, you know, AIDS and HIV. And I said, I'll be safe, you know, whatever. And she said, no, I explained that, you know, that's what I thought she meant. She said, no. She was like, if that happens, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Like, you know, we'll deal with that. But she's like, that's not what I'm talking about. She was like, you know, I hope that you would be smart enough to practice safer sex, but she said, what I'm talking about is that society is not very kind to gay people. And she was really, really worried about me. And, you know, my mom, I would say that first couple years really was, and my mom taught me some things. I think she got the world on a different level than maybe some other people did. I don't know. My mom, you know, she was a very fearful person, but she wasn't afraid to the point of not living your life. For her, she was, but not for me as far as advice. But she would always say things to me like, make sure you always put your safety first. Like, don't put yourself in an unsafe situation. And she didn't mean like, I mean, if she even knew some of the places I ended up because of drugs and alcohol, that would be a different story. But that wasn't what she was talking about. You know, she was talking about being careful of myself due to, you know, me wanting to be flamboyant at times, or that people don't like gay people, and, you know, whatever. And I have to say that I think that because of that advice, I really have always tried to put my safety first when it comes to situations like that. I'm less tolerant today, like, I mean, if people have issues with me because they, you know, or with gay people, I just kind of like move on about my business. I don't ignore it. I don't allow it to pass, but I don't allow myself to be walked over as well. I don't know how to explain that. It doesn't really happen to me. I don't live in a world today. Like, my small world is not surrounded much by, I don't deal with homophobia on a regular basis. I can't really even tell you the last time that it happened to me. And today, quite frankly, if an adult looked at me and kind of snickered or laughed or whatever about my voice or the way that I carried myself or because I said husband or something, I probably would straight up look at them and say, do you have an issue that you need to talk to me about? I mean, I would stand my ground today. There was a time that I wouldn't do that. Now, I don't know that I would do that walking down a dark street in the middle of the night, okay? You know, like, and, I just don't know, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm talking about, putting my safety first. But I wouldn't be walking down the middle of some dark street in the middle of the night anyway. Knowing me, I'm such a chicken, you know what I mean? I'd be like, oh my Lord, Jeffrey Dahmer or Henry Lee Lucas is out there trying to kill me. There's serial killers everywhere. I'm not trying to come in contact with serial killers, you know what I mean? But like, yeah. So, she's always taught me, you know, to be careful. How did I get on this subject tonight? We're talking about 7th and 8th grade. But I knew, like, I mean, early on, I knew that I kind of, like, had crushes on boys, but I had crushes on girls, too. But I think by that point, like, you know, when I dated my girlfriend in high school, I have to say, like, I liked her. I thought she was pretty. I thought she was pretty, like, the same way that I look at, like, Jessica Alba, and I think she's pretty. Or Selena Gomez, I think is a cute girl. You know what I mean? Like, I look at them, and I think they're gorgeous girls. Scarlett Johansson, she looks so good, doesn't she, as she gets older even, you know? I mean, just, there's something about her. Scarlett Johansson is beautiful to me, and the Oscars, she looked incredible. And who's the one that's in the new Dior perfume commercial? God, Tanya and I were just talking about her. She was in the movie, oh shoot, The Piano, a long time ago. What's her name? She's beautiful. But anyway, you know, I mean, I thought of my girlfriend that way. When I was in high school, I thought she was gorgeous and she was fun to be around and she had a great personality. Did I have any romantic attraction to her? No. And I think I knew that. But I also think I didn't think it was possible for me. I don't think I thought it was possible for me to live in a world where I could have a boyfriend or to have a husband was so far from my mind. They're just like, if you had said that. If you had said to me when I was in high school, like let's say my junior year, 30 years from now you'll be married and you'll have a husband and live in a condo and your life will be like everybody else's. Okay, I had to pull into Planet Fitness. I was gonna say Planet Hollywood, but I could go to Vegas right now. Anyway, I had to pull into Planet Fitness because my battery died on my camera. I thought I had my other battery, but it must be at home in the charger, so I'm gonna get off here now. But anyway, I was just gonna conclude my coming out story anyway about all that. So, anyway, I'll talk more about that tomorrow night if I'm feeling it. But anyway, I will not talk that much about books. So anyway, I love you guys. I hope you're having, I'm gonna make this very, very quick so it doesn't shut off because it's flashing at me. I hope you guys are having an amazing Wednesday, unless you have other plans. But like I always say, don't have other plans, make the most of your day. Do something that you're proud, that will make yourself proud in the future, and do something that will make you really, really happy today. Do something fun. Watch a Netflix series. Have some ice cream. Have some healthy food. I don't know, something. And if nobody else has told you this today, I love you. Make sure that you look at yourself in the mirror every single day and you do your daily affirmations and you say, I love you. You are valuable. You are important. You matter. Today is going to be a great day. You're beautiful. You are handsome. Today is going to be a great day. You are worthy of all of the good in the world. You are a good person. And today's gonna be an amazing day, a great day. Good opportunities are gonna come your way, and 2020 is your year. Most importantly, make sure that you pass it on to somebody else and you let them know how you feel about them, and not somebody that you don't like how you feel about, but somebody that you do like. Let them know how you feel about them and how much they mean to you. And most importantly, on top of that, practice random acts of kindness. I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Bye. Thank you for watching. Bye. Love ya.